And welcome to this week's edition of Cavaliers Weekly here on the Bleacher Report app. As always, I am Mikey McNuggets. And as we sat here last Thursday, we previewed the Cleveland versus Indiana series. I would tell you with the utmost certainty that in a million years, I did not expect to be back 1 week from last week's stream with the Cleveland Cavaliers down 2-0 in the series, or down 0-2 technically. Their backs against the wall as they head to Indiana for game 3. And not just Darius Garland, but Garland, Mobley, and DeAndre Hunter are all game time decisions to play in game 3 due to injuries sustained earlier in the playoffs or in game 1. Garland still dealing with the big toe sprain. Evan Mobley rolled his ankle in game 1, did not play in game 2. And DeAndre Hunter dislocated his thumb in game 1. He also did not play in game 2. I just got back about 45 minutes ago, I'd say, from the Cavaliers open media session today where Kenny Atkinson addressed those injuries. While all three of them did participate in some capacity during practice today, I can report that practice was more of just a light shoot-around, more of an X's and O's walkthrough than any sort of legitimate practice. They didn't get into full court action. They didn't compete one-on-one. It was no physicality. It was just simply a walkthrough and a little bit of a shoot-around. But it's a good sign to see that those three all participated in some capacity, because prior to game 2, none of them did. So it's baby steps. Is baby steps enough to get them healthy enough to play in game 3 against Indiana on Friday night? I don't know. We won't know until Friday night, because all three of those guys are legitimate game time decisions. Coaches, teams, organizations, players, they lie to our faces all the time when it comes to injury statuses, injury updates, how healthy they're feeling, how good they feel, how good an ankle, a wrist, a thumb, a toe is. Because there's a little bit of cat and mouse game with the opponent. You don't want to give your opponent your game plan. You don't want Indiana to know going into a game, well, they're not going to have Evan Mobley, or we're not going to have DeAndre Hunter, so they can adapt. You want to keep it ambiguous until the last minute. But the truth of the matter is, if those guys are healthy enough to play and play at a level Cleveland feels comfortable with, then they're going to play. And if the answer to that question on Friday night is, even if he's out there, is he effective? Is he going to be a liability? Then I don't think they play. But as of 5:02 p.m. Eastern time on Thursday, May 8th, my birthday no less, I feel pretty good that Darius and DeAndre are going to give it a shot. I feel the least confident in Evan Mobley, who severely sprained his ankle in game 1 and then didn't even have the ability to put the majority of his weight on his ankle on Tuesday for game 2. That extra day between game 2 and game 3 is crucial. Had this game been played tonight, with Wednesday being the only off day, I don't think those three guys are going. I truly don't. But because they have one extra day, 24 more hours to rest up and recover from the emotional collapse that was game 2, the physical deterioration we witnessed before our eyes in Donovan and Max and Ty and Sam and Dean and all the guys that contributed, they needed that extra 24 hours to rest up, to recover, and to prepare not only their bodies, but their minds for what's ahead. And this series is far from over. Now, the numbers indicate the Cavs should be heavy underdogs to come out of this series. In the history of the league, only 5 teams ever, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, have lost games 1 and 2 at home and gone on to win the series. It has happened relatively recently. 2021 was the most recent example. But that's just 14% of the time. So the odds are stacked against Cleveland. And Indiana's good. I tried to tell you guys last Thursday. The Pacers are a very good basketball team, not one to be taken lightly. And obviously the injuries changed the entire complexion of the series. But Indiana has done a lot of really good things over the first 2 games to earn a 2-0 lead. Now, should Cleveland have won game 2? Absolutely. 1,000%. And there are a million different reasons throughout the course of the game that Cleveland was not able to capitalize and come out of game 2 with the series tied 1-1. And we got the last 2-minute report the day after, on Wednesday afternoon. And before we dive into some of the things in that last 2-minute report, I just want to say that the NBA putting out the last 2-minute report is the dumbest single thing the NBA does. Why does the NBA do this to itself? The last 2-minute report is supposed to be a way to validate coaches and players and fans' feelings if they feel a call was missed. Hey, hand up, our bad. You're right. We did miss that call. But it doesn't change the outcome. You can't go back and revert the winner and the loser of the game because you admit you missed a call or several calls. It doesn't make Cleveland feel any better to know that Aaron Nesmith was clearly in violation of NBA rules with a lane violation on his tip-in dunk off the free throw, or that Tyrese Haliburton committed a lane violation as well. And granted, on both of those plays, the Cavs also committed lane violations. So it should have been 2 jump balls. But the fact that you admit that now doesn't change anything. Cleveland still collapsed. Indiana still came back. Haliburton still hit the dagger with 1.1 seconds left on a step-back 3 in a situation Cleveland couldn't give up a 3. That all happened. You can't erase it from the atmosphere. It doesn't just get poof, gone, forgotten. So why even release it? We know it was a missed call. Anyone with 2 eyes can see it was a missed call. We don't need you to tell us afterwards, hey, yeah, our refs missed it. We're taking note of it. Thank you, sir. But what for? What good does it do? What does it actually accomplish? I'm genuinely asking this question. If anyone out there watching knows, please leave a comment. I'll read it on air. I would love to know what the NBA believes it's truly accomplishing by releasing these 2-minute reports. Because I can't find one good, legitimate reason to believe that it's a necessary part of the structure and how the NBA communicates with its fans. If anyone has a good idea, please let me know. I'd love to know what you think. But I have absolutely no clue. And it annoys me. It bothers me that the portion of the fan base, in this case Cleveland, but I'm speaking to all fan bases, this is not Cavaliers specific. This is not Cleveland specific. When I worked at College Station covering Texas A&M, I said the exact same thing about Texas A&M fans. When I worked in Knoxville prior to that, I said the exact same thing about Tennessee fans. When I lived in Boston, I said the same thing about Boston fans. When I grew up in New York, I said the same thing about New York fans. Fans believe refs are biased against them. Every single fan base believes refs are out to get them. Here in Cleveland, if the Cavs or the Browns lose, it's always, oh my God, the referees hate Cleveland. Spoiler alert, when I was in College Station, if the Aggies lost, it was the SEC is biased against Texas A&M. When I was in Tennessee, God forbid a call didn't go their way. Same old story. The SEC officials, the SEC office, it hates Knoxville. They're Bama fans. You get my point? It happens everywhere. It is unavoidable. And the refs did not cost Cleveland game 2. Did they help? No. No, they didn't help. They missed the 2 lane violations. That's a fact. Would it have taken points off the board? Yes. But you can't blame the refs when you had a 20-point lead in the second half and let it slip away. You can't blame the refs when in the final 48 seconds of the game, with you up by 7, you failed to get the ball across half court once. You turn the ball over on an inbounds play. Donovan gets an offensive foul the second he gets the ball inbounded to him. You don't box out on 2 separate free throws, allowing the offense, Aaron Nesmith for a dunk and Haliburton on a little tip-off that led to the game-winning 3, to cream off your own hands into the Indiana Pacers. That ain't the ref's fault. That's the player's fault. That's the coach's fault. And it drives me nuts. It drives me nuts that there are legitimately smart people out there, people who I respect, people who I enjoy going back and forth with online, that are pointing their finger at the refs saying that's the reason we lost the game. No, it's not. It's one of the reasons. It is part of the equation, but it is not the end-all be-all. Because despite the fact that the refs missed those calls, despite it, you still had multiple chances within your own power, in your own 2 hands, to get the job done. And you didn't. And that stings. And it's a gut punch. And it's deflating. And I wish it wasn't the case. But that's the truth. Now let's get to the bottom of the toughness test. Because I titled this stream, are the Cavs tough enough to win it all? Are they tough enough to put a collapse like that behind them and prepare mentally and physically and emotionally for game 3? And the answer to that question is three-pronged. First and foremost, when you say, are they tough enough? What kind of toughness are we talking about? There's physical toughness. There's mental toughness. There's emotional toughness. And when we just say, are they tough enough? Is player X tough enough? Is Darius Garland tough enough? Is Donovan Mitchell tough enough? Is Jared Allen? Is Kenny Atkinson? Is Evan Mobley? Is Dean Wade? Are they tough enough? It is a blanket statement that is an impossible question to answer. Because in my opinion, as someone who played Division III basketball, granted, nowhere near the NBA level, was a mediocre D3 basketball player, but I did play Division III for a coach who won National Coach of the Year in 1999 with Ohio State, led the Buckeyes to the Final Four, and previously led Boston College to the Elite Eight. So a guy that knows his way around the basketball court and has coached some prominent NBA guys in his career. Now, was the only player in Jim O'Brien's career to start more than 4 games and never lose one. Michael Redd can't say that, even though he does have an NBA All-Star appearance on his resume. But my point is, I think I could speak pretty well to the different levels of toughness from personal experience. Physical toughness. Are you big? You strong? Can you play through contact? Can you create the contact and not get disrupted? Can you still get to your point on the court? Can you get to your spots when there are defensive players standing in your way? Can you make an and one? Are you strong enough to absorb and finish? Are you tough enough to box out? Are you tough enough to defend? And are you tough enough to play hard every single play? Those all sound easy to discuss, but they fall into different categories. The physical is the easy. That's the stuff that we see. That's are you strong enough to finish an and one? Are you strong enough to box a guy out? Are you strong enough to not get pushed off your spot? Are you strong enough to make a cut and hold a screen as you have another player barreling through you? That part of toughness, I do think, is fair to question when it comes to Cleveland. We saw it against New York 2 years ago. They got bullied. Orlando last season, yeah, Cleveland won the series, but Orlando pushed them around, gave them a fight for their money, and they actually led by 18 in game 7. And Cleveland, due to their mental toughness, which we'll talk about in a second, was able to come back and end up winning that game. So physically, are the Cavs physically tough? Donovan is. I'm not 100% certain I can say that anyone else on the team is physically tough. Tristan Thompson is, but I'm talking about the guys who play on a consistent basis. Darius is tough in other ways, but physically, not 100% if tough is the word I would use to describe him. Evan, I think, is getting tougher. Jared Allen is getting tougher. DeAndre Hunter, I haven't seen enough to know. Dean Wade, he's so inconsistent. You either are or you're not. There's no on some days, so I don't think so. Mentally tough. When your back is against the wall, are you mentally tough enough to stay composed? This is kind of the clutch gene. We call it the clutch gene, but it's really mental toughness disguised in a clutch cloak. When the pressure is on, when the lights are the brightest, when your back's against the wall, when a play has to be made, are you mentally tough enough to control your breathing, calm your heart rate, and make the play that's needed? Whether it's scoring, defense, making the right pass, making the right read, the game speeds up in those moments. That's when everything's a blur. Are you mentally tough enough to calm the game down and see it in the same speed that everyone else sees it for the first 45 minutes of the game? I heard I think it was Albert Breer was talking about Joe Burrow and how there was a study done on Joe Burrow when he was coming out of the NFL draft, coming out of LSU, that looked at his heart rate in certain situations. They were trying to determine how is Joe cool, which was his nickname in college. How did he stay so cool? And they put Joe through a series of tests. And one of the tests was measuring his heart rate in different situations. And it's impossible to put a heart rate monitor on a guy in fake situations. So they took real game data. All the NFL players wear these heart rate monitors. And it turns out in LSU's season where Joe went crazy and won the Heisman, the lowest his heart rate was at any point during the season was in the one game where it came down to the wire. On the one drive LSU needed that season to continue on being undefeated, to keep their national championship hopes alive, Joe Burrow's heart rate was at its lowest. Albert Breer said the doctor he talked to about that study said that's serial killer behavior. Like that's sociopathic behavior. Or a sociopathic trait, not behavior. But it's what the best, the most clutch guys, the greats have. An ability to be mentally strong, mentally tough in those hard situations to be able to execute. And we've seen it from Donovan. And Darius was the single most efficient clutch player in the NBA this season. I do think he's mentally tough. And Evan and Jared, I believe they're mentally tough. Physically, you could question, but mentally, I don't think it's a question. Max Strus, he's physically tough and mentally incredibly tough. Now, he made a mental mistake late in game 2. I'm not absolving him of that. But one mistake versus a cachet of positive results does not override it all. And then emotionally tough. I don't have the answer for that for you guys yet. We're going to find out in game 3. Because after a loss like you experienced in game 2, things can go one of two ways. One, it's a rallying cry. It's a coming to Jesus moment. It could be the best thing that ever happened to the Cavs. Or it could be 1, 2, 3, Cancun. And we're not going to get that answer until Friday night. And until I see how the Cavs respond in the first quarter of game 1, we're not going to know if they're emotionally, tough or not. I talked to a coach today on the Cavs staff about just how the vibes in the building have been in the 36 hours since that game 2 loss. And he was like, hey, we haven't faced much adversity all season. Sometimes you need a little adversity. You need a little bit of kick in the butt, for lack of a better word. I don't want to say the exact words he said, to motivate the guys and to bring everyone together. It's not supposed to be easy. Like winning a championship is never easy. You have to go through some of these unceremonious circumstances to get to the ultimate goal. And we're going to find out on Friday night if this team has a championship DNA or not. If they come out and get smoked in game 3, pack it in, basically admit the series is over, then this current group may not have the championship DNA needed. But if this group comes out with or without the injured guys and puts up a fight against an Indiana team with all the momentum, with home court, confidence through the roof, having just taken 2 in Cleveland, then yeah, I think emotionally tough would be a way to characterize this group of Cavs. So in conclusion, I think we know the answer to are they physically tough. I think we know the answer to are they mentally tough. And we're going to find out if they're emotionally tough come Friday night. And if you have 2 of the 3, you have a chance. When you have 3 of 3, you're considered a favorite. Boston and OKC, I think right now, have 3 of 3. Cleveland still has to figure out if they have the third component that makes a championship team. And I cannot wait to determine, and I cannot wait to see how this unfolds on Friday night. We appreciate you tuning into this week's Cavaliers Weekly here on the Bleacher Report app. Game 3 between the Cavs and the Pacers tips off Friday night on ESPN. If you liked what you heard tonight, check me out on Twitter at Mike Lucas TV. You can see it on the screen there. And with that, go Cavs. Have a good one, guys. And we'll see you next week for another Cavaliers Weekly.